Hi, and welcome back to Connected from Afar. Today, we are talking all things acceptance and how accepting things in life as they are versus what you want them to be can actually bring a lot of peace and freedom into your life. Welcome back to our channel. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Janelle. We have bonded as millennial women, as moms, wives, as coaches, and as students of life, all while finding the humor in the chaos. This is us unpacking and externally processing the ever evolving and growing baggage of life. Join us in the conversation.
Have we mentioned that we've never actually met in real life? We are connected from afar. I was thinking about this the other day because when you get so far on your journey and you realize all the things you've had to accept as truth to get you to where you are, sometimes in the moment you don't realize you're having to do it, but you are. I don't know. And so just solely through reflection for me lately, I'm like, holy shit, I've had to accept so many things, mostly accept relationships that were in my life that were just solely not what I wanted them to be. But I kept telling myself that they would be that they would be the person I wanted them to be. And in reality, I just couldn't accept that they had already shown me this version of who they were a million times, but I just couldn't accept it because accepting it brought too much pain, like too much suffering into my life. And so I just was like, I can see the good in them. So I'm going to choose that they're going to want to do better. And in reality, like they have to choose that path on their own. And I didn't need to be the hero and trying to make it happen. And I also didn't need to be like drugged down in this shit just because that was where they were living. Is
Yeah.
that like relatable?
No, absolutely. But as you're talking, I'm kind of what came to mind is that that's kind of twofold, is like accepting them for who they are, but also accepting you for who you are, and that's maybe something you thought you wish you wanted, but really you don't. And so just accepting that that is not a failure, that is
Yeah.
just, it was an experience, and not judging that. I think sometimes when we try to accept things, we place judgment on them, on those
Mm-hmm.
decisions that we made in the past. And it's just accepting means non-judgmental, just acknowledging and accepting just for things that are as they are, and not writing this huge narrative around it, and then move
Yeah.
forward, making choice. Then with that acknowledgement, you can, and that acceptance, you can just move forward with intention, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and obviously it sounds so easy to do, but
Yeah.
when you're caught up in the shit, it's much harder to recognize and to be like, one, I have the power to make a choice here because sometimes when we're especially if we're thinking about like a relationship and you feel helpless, like you're just caught up in this, like you said yes to being with this person, so that means you have to stay on this fucking hamster wheel for as long as you are until hopefully something maybe changes and you can get off, when in reality it's like at any time you can choose to accept exactly what's going on and then make a choice like you've said to do something different, and that's where all your power is, especially I mean for anybody, but I always like to say because for women, but that's where our power is in any human being, is like the power is in the choice that you make, and you can either give it away or you can use it and harness it and keep it for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like, there's so much, like you said, there's so much power in that. And it's not just a relationship thing either. It's,
Mhm.
even just where you are in life, accepting where you are, not judging yourself. And do I like where I'm at, or do I need to make changes? And if so, then make so accordingly. But like, just, I think there's so much I think sometimes we have a hard time ac- accepting don't because we don't like the shame or the guilt or the whatever we place, all these stories that we place, and the emotions we place around accepting, taking, responsibility for where we are. And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't like it. So we're like kind of pretend otherwise or ignore because we don't want to sit in those emotions. If we just release those emotions and or not even attach those emotions, look at it from just a standpoint of it like an objective view of like, this is where I'm at. I like it, I don't like it. Let's move accordingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I think it's such a useful tool of because it helps us know what is our next right move for us.
Mhm.
Like whether it's, we talked a little bit about this earlier, is like I was on a team in high school and I had a coach who did things a little bit differently. And some might have viewed it as, some parents might have been like, I can't believe you said that to my child, like, but he was very clear and honest with us of like, these are our strongest players. They will be our starting lineup. You are less strong and you don't show as much commitment to improving or whatever. Like he was blunt with us
Yeah.
and just saying like you are still a value to this team because you do show up. You do cheer on you, like you're a great team player because you encourage the others. He was just very clear on like what he saw in us. And it
Hmm.
was always never like you don't have value or you don't have, it's not that you can't ever be in these roles, but as it is right now, as it stands right now, these are your roles and this is what I expect from you. And that was so helpful because then it's not like we knew where we stood and we knew what we needed to do. Then, like, from that point, it's like, well, I actually want to be on the starting lineup.
Hmm.
Well, now I know what I need to do to get there. He was very clear on what needed to be done in order to be on the starting lineup. But it was also nice to hear have someone, like the kind of the softer skills on a team of, being the cheerleader, being the team player that's always like the one to lift everybody up and just someone to recognize that and kind of accept that that might be a softer skill and maybe not the like starting lineup skills that you
Hmm.
needed, but like that is super valuable. And so to own that, to acknowledge that is like one of your strengths and own that and like really lean into that.
Hmm.
I think there's such power in accepting yourself for who you are. That doesn't mean you can't improve or change, but to accept what are my strengths and what are my gaps. Do I care enough to work on my gaps? No, I don't. Like I could care less. And then
Yeah.
then you just let go of these things that are sitting so heavy on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you right now?
Yeah.
And we use this all the time, but just talking about like being curious. We can think about like, where am I right now in my life? And according to, society, I'm in my mid 30s. I mean, shit, I should be like, all these things should be just rolling out for me because I'm at this perfect time, and you should have all this money in the bank and you should have all these new cars. And like, I mean, as a kid, you think, oh my God, when I'm 35, I'm going to be rich. Like, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to have this huge career. I'm going to, all these things. And it's like accepting that that's not where I am. Like,
Yeah.
and also that was maybe where I was never going to be. Or, like, I don't know, being curious of realizing where I've put myself was based on societal standards versus my own standards.
Yeah.
What's more important to me? Just thinking solely of just like my career. Could I go and like, I mean, at this point in my life, would someone hire me in corporate? I don't know. I've never worked in corporate, but like, could I do something like that and feel like I'm selling my soul? Sure, at this point. But it's like I've made these choices of like having my own business and working hard and doing it for myself, that I've accepted that things might look different for me because I have to start from literal zero. I can't just get hired on at a company making 60 plus a year, right? Like it could take me 3 years to make that. It could take me one, it could take me 6 months. Like, you don't know, but it's like, okay, this is the choice I've made. I've accepted that this is going to be a journey. And now it's time to just enjoy it. Like looking
Yeah.
at it from like a career perspective like that.
Yeah, that was something I had to grow through, because I grew up on a farm. My parents are farmers, and they were very much, they didn't want us to become farmers because they knew it was a lot of hard work. It was like very seasonal, you're all in or you're all out. And then a lot of it is, you're rolling a lot of your money back into the farm. Like, yes, later on it becomes more. Anyway, they didn't want us to become farmers. But
Yeah.
then, so for them, it was really important that we got, like the jobs that we did pursue, they highly encouraged us to go for jobs that made a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
would create a lot of ease, which is, it was out of love, but at the same time, it was like, that doesn't ring true. I tried working in an office, like in a corporate world for a union. My God, not my jam, And
Yeah.
so like I always veered towards these kind of different, like very, I don't know how to say it, but like very different paths that have a lot less security. Like I did
Mm-hmm.
not search for security, even though as much as that was important to my parents, they just wanted security for us at the end of the day. Right. And to accept that that's not my path. My
Mm-hmm.
path is very fluid and like, I like to chase my curiosities and really lean into whatever my soul whispers to me. And I had to accept that, but it did, you kind of start attaching, I don't have a degree. I have certificates, I have
Yeah.
diplomas in a lot of different things, but I don't have that degree. And I don't have, I've never worked in a job for like a long period of time. And so I had to really accept myself, after years and years of kind of secretly holding that, going home and, say like a school reunion, going to school reunion, like that would, I'd be like, oh, what do I tell them? Like I don't, to them, it would look like I didn't have a career, but I've had many careers. I've had
Mm-hmm.
very many experiences that most people haven't had, but because that was so instilled within me of this need for security and these like fancy titles, whether it was a diploma,
Mm-hmm.
like a degree or a job title that was very, you know, what would be deemed, you know, high up there.
Yeah.
Like it's very, when people ask me that, it's hard for me to explain what I do and what I've done with my life. And you can almost see the panic on their face, but I have to accept that that's who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't need to explain that to anybody. I love my life, you know?
Yeah. That was a huge, oh my gosh. Just to this day, like right now in this moment, is where I am like, I fully accept my career. I mean, being a hairstylist for, oh my God, now like 17 years or something insane, that was easy. Like, I'm a hairstylist. I still somehow put shame around that because I was stupid and I didn't go to college and I was just a hairstylist.
Yes.
So, which is insane because I wasn't. I was also a business owner, an entrepreneur. Like, I had to build what I had, but I gave myself no credit for it. And then
Yeah.
when I became a life coach, then I got stuck in this space of like, how do I tell people I do two things? Because they're just like, it's just so easy to be like, I'm a doctor or I'm a project manager, like all these other titles that, by the way, people just think you know what you're talking about when you say them. I always laugh, like when my husband would like, oh, he's project manager. I mean, that's an easy one, but he's done other ones. And I'm just like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Your title means nothing to me because I don't even know what it means. But accepting that, like, Nicole, you can be two things.
Yeah.
And how beautiful that you can offer so much in different, I can help your hair and I can help your mind. I mean, what's more beautiful than that, right? Like, but I couldn't get to that space. And so being able to get there is like, oh my God, this is freedom. This is freedom. I'm allowed to be good at more than one thing. And that was my hang up for so long, thinking I could only be good at one thing. But sidetracking a little bit, acceptance is what has got me to where I feel more free. And it's like, no, like I'm accepting that my life doesn't need to look like anyone else's life, that it can be so all over the place. I just got Reiki certified. Oh my God, now I have another title, like
Yeah.
I can be good at more than one thing and that's my life and I've accepted that as the truth. And I've got to make more choices, and my choices looked like adding on to more things I could do instead of staying small and just trying to fit into a mold of what other people thought. So I would say, honestly, acceptance in this space has been huge, huge for me.
Yeah. And that really can only come from within. Like that
Yeah.
acceptance from other people. If you're waiting for acceptance from other people, that's not true acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
That is like, I think that's what people struggle with. For me, that's what it was. It was I was hoping people would accept me as I
Yeah.
am. And I was afraid that they wouldn't accept me.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I didn't want to share what I did because I'm very much like you and have an array of things. But that acceptance has to come from within, because even if you have acceptance from other people, if you're not comfortable in your own skin and you're not confident in what you have to offer and the value that you bring into the world, you
Mm-hmm.
are forever, like you said, it brings such peace to have that acceptance. And if you don't, you're just constantly seeking something and you'll never find it because it
Yeah,
has to come from within.
absolutely. Yep. And I was thinking too, just like some of the, like, if you're getting caught up in a space of having, like, it being challenging to accept where you are, I think it's like we said, being curious, but asking yourself, like, what's getting in my way? Like, what am I
Mm,
not, what truth am I not wanting to sit with? I think about that for so many different things, from relationships to careers or, whatever. Is there a piece of me that's going to be exposed that I am too terrified for others to see? So instead, I'm not going to accept what's in front of me. I'm just going to hide and hope that eventually it all goes away. I was in a really like toxic relationship in my early, like, I don't know, from like 17 to 19, 20 ish. So toxic. And it's not until, years later when I started this journey where I could see I just was not willing to accept this person for being bad. And I got stuck inside of that toxic wheel of, I'm going to change. And then the whole honeymoon stage, right? Like, here's this whole, here, I'm changing. Look how good I'm doing for 2 weeks. And then the cycle starts all over. And it just, like, my whole relationship was stuck like that because I wanted to believe his words. I wanted to believe he was good. But in reality, he wasn't. I don't know where he is in life, and he could be the most amazing person now. But in that time, that's not what his journey was. And so I had to unknowingly, this was all unconscious work that I did because I wasn't anywhere. No, I didn't have personal growth back then. But I just remember this light bulb moment of seeing an older a gal that I used to work with, and she was, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years older than I am, and her relationship looked like mine did. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, if I don't get out of this, I'm going to be her.
yeah.
And I'm going to be her with a kid. And it's going to be harder. And why have you accepted so little? Why have you allowed this? Like, where did all your worth go? You've given everything away. You feel like you deserve this, because there was times this is what I deserve. This is what, and it was just like having to come back to me. And again, very unknowingly, of just like, I know I don't feel like I deserve more, but somewhere in there, in my being, is this little chirp of, you deserve more
Yeah.
somewhere, which just that little noise was enough to rattle me and be like, you gotta get out of this. You gotta stop.
Yeah. And like, I think the key in that is that you have to get quiet and listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, as like where I am now, I share with clients, friends, like, listen to your heart.
Yeah.
Always listen to your heart. Your mind is going to keep you safe, keep you where you're supposed to be. It's going to tell you not to accept it, that that's not reality. Your mind's going to tell you all the things to make you not change. But your heart is always going to guide you with the right answer. And you got to get back into your body in order for that to happen. And then it's like, okay, let's take the risk. Let's accept what I'm seeing for my career, for my relationship, for, whatever it is. What if I lean in with my heart? How different is this going to look? Because often we've already leaned in with our mind and our ego,
Yeah.
and we just got the same answer and the same, got put back into the same situations over and over again because we're ignoring our heart. And our heart has so much acceptance for us, for other people. And I think a beautiful piece, while I'm on this little tangent of this, is like when you lean into your heart and you create compassion for yourself, that bleeds into having compassion for other people, and realizing that the situation you might be in, it maybe it's not as bad as you think it is. Like maybe you just need to accept that, like, you guys, if it's a relationship, you guys just aren't meant for each other right now. And it's important to like lean in with your heart. And that doesn't, you can accept things without resenting them, is I guess is where I'm trying to go to. Like we can accept it without having hate and anger towards where we were. And I can't believe I was there. And it's like, no, that's the beauty of the journey. You were meant to be there. That's exactly what got you to this new space of like understanding and having love and joy and all of these things. If you didn't go through that shit, you wouldn't be here. So having
Yeah.
compassion for the entire journey is great, I think.
So part of that is, I think that's such a beautiful way of saying, like, in that example that you're giving, where there's, again, it comes down to curiosity, not judgment. Be
Mm-hmm.
curious, not judgmental. And you can be that for other people, like curious what got them here and not judge them for where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And the same for yourself, not judging yourself. How did you get there? You were kind of like, saying like, how did I even get myself into this situation? But then accepting that everything that happened throughout this maybe relationship that you feel like I got to get out of here, is that if you didn't go through that experience and didn't accept what your role is and what their role was and what the situation was, most likely you would end up in the same situation again and again and again. But when
Mm-hmm.
you have that acceptance, now you have that awareness of, this is what I bring. This is maybe some of the things that I would like to work on, whether it's more of your confidence, being able to speak up more for yourself, not allowing yourself to be treated that way, whatever it is, so that when you get into another situation where maybe it starts out that way and you're like, whoa, nope, we're not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I want to show up in this relationship. This is what I accept of myself, that these are important to me. These are my values. This is how I like my self-worth. And you can meet me here or you don't. And if you don't, I'm not here for this relationship. And that can be friendship as well. That doesn't even have to be
Yeah,
romantic, right? And
absolutely.
but accepting yourself for who you are and what your value and what you bring to the table. And sometimes that also means accepting what your role was, and that could be that you didn't speak up for yourself when you should have, or and we're not judging, we're looking at
Observing.
it, observing, absolutely, just objectively observing and being like, okay, these are the things that I really want to work on because it's important to me, because
Mm-hmm.
I do have value, you know
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's time to get curious. It's
Yeah.
time to, spark that awareness so that you can start looking into things that you need to accept. And it's only out of love. It's only for your highest self, your best self
Yes.
of I I know there's more for me, and in order to, kind of tap into that, I need to accept some of the things around me. I need to get curious and I need to recognize that, you know what? If I start doing things just a little bit differently, I could be more connected to myself. I could feel better about myself. My thoughts could be kinder, nicer. It spews into all of, self-love really by just being able to like others, accept other situations, accept yourself. It's
Yeah.
this whole journey of, it's never about one thing. It spews into every part of our life when you start doing this work. You might start
Yeah.
it for a relationship and then you might end up with a new career because you realize, like, whoa, I've been settling. I didn't even need to do, like, whoa, there's all this other world. Or you might get a new job and then realize, also, probably should be looking at my relationship. Or, those are the two that obviously are coming to mind heavy today. Excuse me. But they're all relatable, they're all intertwined and connected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you have more?
I just like, accepting is not necessarily just looking at the bad stuff. Accepting is also accepting the good stuff that you have to value. Sometimes it's like, it's something good about yourself that, might not be the norm, or might not be like it's like almost a quirk, but it makes
Mm-hmm.
you who you are, And that's beautiful. And owning that and accepting yourself, accepting all your quirks, and just
Mm-hmm.
like really living out loud. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that too, is like, it's accepting can be the parts of you that you don't maybe are nervous that might not be as lovable. Accept them. That's who you are, and just live through those, because you will find the people that, or you will attract the people that love that piece of you. I mean, not
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going to love every part of you, but if you love yourself and accept yourself for exactly who you are, quirks and flaws and work to be done, and all the work that you have done, uh, that carries such a confidence and such an energy. It carries such an energy that is attractive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we're not doing this work to mold ourselves into someone that we think other people want us to be. Like, we're
Yeah.
doing this work to get us back to our truest version of ourselves.
Yeah. Just someone we love, not
Yeah,
what we think other people will love, what we love.
which is
Yeah.
why, like, embrace those quirks, embrace those funky little things that you do that other people are like, huh? It's like, dude, that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you, so wild and amazing. Which I love. And I have found through this experience, I'm sure you have too, that like the more layers I've pulled back, the more I've rediscovered more of myself. And I'm like, wow, I'm fun, I'm silly, crack jokes. I like to have fun. I like to laugh. Like, not that I didn't always know that kind of stuff about me, but it's coming more, apparent to me, where it's like, no, this is me.
Yeah.
So, should we move on to our mystery question?
Yes.
Okay.
We're both playing
Okay.
chicken over here.
We're really good. We're really good. Okay, we're keeping it short. Okay, mystery question.
I have one.
Okay.
And feel free, if it's something you're not willing to share, that's okay. This might be a bit personal, but is there something, can you share something that you've had to accept about yourself that was a struggle?
Okay, let's see. The first thing that comes to my mind. Accept about myself. I think it would come back down to the role of the belief of me believing that I wasn't smart and moving through that. But what I'm saying is I've accepted now that it's okay for me to ask questions. It's okay for me to ask questions six different times in six different ways until I finally am like, well, I get it now. That might seem like something little, but that kind of plays in a lot of my life, where it's like, I've had to accept that I oftentimes need to hear things more than once in order for it to register. And by moving through that and not being afraid, it's made it just more fun for me. And sometimes I'm like, damn, like they'll repeat it the same thing the same
Yeah.
way, and then I'll hear it on it's so funny. And I think, wow, my brain is so tricky, and I love that about me now. Like, something that I shamed myself for years, was embarrassed, I hid, all of that now is just this whole like blossom person of like, my brain just works the way that it works. And although you can see it clear as day, like, until I see it, I don't see it. And that's been I would say a struggle in the beginning because I had to work through all of that. But now I totally embrace that. And I want to be curious and keep asking questions. And it's like, if you're getting frustrated because I'm asking again, like, that's your problem.
Yeah.
You know, that's your problem, not mine. Like, I just, so it's, yeah, that's a whole, what is that, 180? I always
Yeah.
say 360, and then I realize that that's back at the same space.
Yes, but it's a whole journey and a lot can happen in that journey.
I'll be like, it was a whole 360 moment, you know? My husband's like, so you were back to where you started? Like,
Yes.
well, what's the other one then? What? Oh, what? Okay, yeah, it was a 180. 180.
Yeah, I can totally relate to this because again, you and I are very much alike, and the I thought I was stupid for a long, long time, and that little shift for me was accepting that disinterest does not mean stupid. If I don't
Yeah.
care about something, I do not make the mental space for it. Like I have zero interest in learning in that. Doesn't mean I'm not capable, but I will put my efforts out elsewhere. And that does not make me stupid. Same
Yes.
thing, like if I don't need that information anymore, it's gone. I don't need
Yep.
it. I don't spend time trying to like search my memory bank for this stuff. I'm like, I don't ever feel like I'm going to use this information again. Gone.
Yeah.
And that's something I've had to accept about myself is I that's my quirk
Yeah.
is I can learn something, but if I don't find it useful, gone. Yeah.
I love that. Can that be your answer?
Sure.
I'll work on a question next time.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Thank you, everyone. We hope that you are walking away with some sort of piece of accepting yourself, your life, and what you need to become aware of. And leave any questions in the comment section and like and subscribe. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.